Police reportedly arrested Letcher County Sheriff Mickey Stein, who was accused of shooting District Judge Kevin Mullins inside his office. According to the Mountain Eagle newspaper, court employees were seen outside the courthouse in shock.
So this county sheriff goes to lunch with this judge, then goes back to the judge's office, guns the judge down with his service weapon, then turns himself in. And this was all caught on video. We got a lot to discuss. This is Sean Mickey Stein. He is sheriff of Letcher County. He was born in 1980 and was elected sheriff in 2018 and re-elected in 2022. He has a teenage daughter and he is known for being very active in the community. Now, before becoming sheriff, Mickey Stein was a bailiff in Judge Kevin Mullins' courtroom. In a video uploaded to social media, here is Sheriff Stein and his daughter singing the song "I Shot the Sheriff" by Bob Marley, where his daughter is dressed in convict orange and sitting in the back of the sheriff's patrol car.
It's shocking video of a local Kentucky sheriff who's been charged with shooting a judge to death. In the video obtained by Inside Edition, you can see the accused sheriff lip-syncing with his daughter inside his patrol car. She's in the back seat wearing an orange t-shirt. Now the choice of songs is raising eyebrows. It's Eric Clapton's version of Bob Marley's iconic "I Shot the Sheriff."
I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot him dead.
When they're finished, they break out into "I Fought the Law."
Now, this is District Court Judge Kevin Mullins, born in 1970, and he served as a District Court Judge for 15 years. He was a former District Attorney who moved to a judgeship. Now, Sheriff Stein and Judge Mullins had a close personal relationship. Now, remember, Stein worked for the judge as a bailiff for several years before becoming sheriff. And in most reports, people who knew them say that they were actually close personal friends.
Mickey and Kevin were really close and good friends. I never saw any hostilities between them.
Residents in Letcher County are struggling to cope with a shooting involving two of its most prominent citizens.
That's why on September 19th, 2024, Sheriff Stein and Judge Mullins had lunch together at a local restaurant called Streetside. Now, there were multiple people who attended the lunch, and observers said there was no sign of tension or conflict between the judge and sheriff. At some point, Mullins did suggest to Stein that they should meet privately in Mullins' chambers.
According to Stamper's testimony, Mullins and Stein ate lunch at a restaurant nearby the courthouse that day.
There was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon.
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Do you know the context of what the conversation was before that they would need to discuss in chambers?
I do not.
So now when both men arrived to the judge's chambers, Sheriff Stein used his phone to make a phone call. Then he asked Mullins for his phone, stating that he needed to make another call. Mullins then handed the sheriff his phone without any hesitation. Sheriff Stein typed in his daughter's phone number and was surprised to see that his daughter's phone number was already saved on the judge's phone. Now, service records from the phone shown that the sheriff attempted to call his daughter from both his phone and the judge's phone.
Stamper also testified additional video showed Stein looking at Mullins' phone several times. He said Stein tried to call his daughter and then tried to call his daughter from Mullins' phone as well.
Have you issued a search warrant for him?
Yes.
Okay. And have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes.
Both of their phones are at a forensic lab being downloaded.
Now, after discovering his daughter's phone number being stored in the judge's phone, the sheriff became very agitated. Witnesses outside the judge's chamber said they could hear a man yelling and screaming, "Help, help."
Stamper testified that 4 witnesses were inside of the next room.
One person stated that she didn't recognize him as being Judge Mullins' voice, but heard somebody say, "Help, help."
Sheriff Stein then produced a semi-automatic pistol, pointed it at Judge Mullins, and fired multiple times. The sheriff then started leaving the office, then turned back around and fired approximately 3 more shots into the judge. Then Sheriff Stein exited the chamber and surrendered to officers outside the chamber and reportedly told them, "Treat me fair. They're trying to kidnap my wife and kid."
Sheriff Mickey Stein is now charged with first-degree murder after immediately surrendering and telling officers, quote, they were trying to kidnap my wife and my kid.
We are following a breaking news alert. A judge shot inside a Kentucky courthouse, reportedly by the county sheriff, is confirmed dead.
Now, with all that, the sheriff is being charged with first-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. He actually shot a sitting judge in his chambers on camera, so obviously the murder charges are going to be there. Now, the sheriff's defense team is going with the defense of extreme emotional disturbance. Now, in most other states, it's called the heat of passion, and it's a recognized defense that can reduce a murder charge to a manslaughter charge, the difference between life imprisonment or 20 years in prison. Now, the defense team is going to have to show that the sheriff was acting under a temporary state of insanity, essentially. They got to show that whatever he saw, whatever information he had, enraged him so much in that moment that it was a reasonable explanation for his actions of shooting the judge. Now, the classic example is a married couple. One person goes to work, the other person stays home. The husband comes home and catches his wife in bed with another man, and the husband kills them both. That would be heat of passion. The husband wouldn't be looking at a murder charge, but a manslaughter charge, because the law recognizes that that situation is so extreme that it could cause a reasonable person to lose control. Here are the sheriff's lawyers explaining it.
At this point, we don't have a complete picture, but what I think was apparent very early is that there was a sudden inflammation of of emotion that transpired in the moments just before the tape came on, in the clip that we saw. And so this tape was edited to cut out anything that happened just prior. And we think the moments just prior will tell the whole story. I don't know at this point what ultimately was on that phone. They're examining the phones, but we believe that based upon the statements that our client made, just following arrest, as well as the indication that there was this exchange of phones or viewing of phones, that something in that moment made our client feel that there was no other choice than to do what he did.
So it almost sounds like you think he snapped. I mean, this was a reaction.
Well, yeah, and that would be textbook extreme emotional disturbance, with the textbook example always of finding your significant other with someone else, and in the moment, in the older case law, they referred to it the heat of passion, and that's pretty much the same line of reasoning that extreme emotional disturbance followed.
So since we're talking about possible motives, I'm going to theorize on a couple of motives that seem to be presented in this particular case. First, the discovery of the sheriff's daughter's phone number on the judge's phone. Next, you have the perceived threats to the wife and daughter of the sheriff. Remember, he claimed that they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid and to treat him fairly. There also may be some mental health considerations here. Paranoia, delusional thinking, a psychological break. Who really knows? And last but not least, there was a federal lawsuit filed against the sheriff's department while Sheriff Stein was sheriff, and it was due to a deputy named Fields. In January 2022, a woman named Sabrina Atkins filed a lawsuit against Deputy Fields, claiming that Deputy Fields had forced her into sexual acts in Judge Mullins' chamber. Now, Ms. Atkins said that she was eligible for home incarceration instead of being placed in county jail. But to get home incarceration, she had to pay what's known as monitoring fees. Those are the fees for the ankle bracelet and all the other stuff necessary so someone could be incarcerated at their home. Now, Ms. Atkins, facing going back to jail, turned to Deputy Fields, who was able to waive the fees under one condition, that Ms. Atkins performed sexual acts on Deputy Fields. So Ms. Atkins had sex with Deputy Fields so she could get home incarceration and have the fees waived, and Deputy Fields was prosecuted and convicted of these crimes, of forcing women to have sex with him so they can get home incarceration. Now, even though all of these crimes were alleged to have occurred in Judge Mullins' office, the judge wasn't implicated in this, but the sheriff was also named in a lawsuit because he was supervising the deputy and was alleged to have turned a blind eye to the assault. So now let's look at the arguments as they are right now for both the state and the defense. Now, if I'm the prosecutor, my case is simple. We have video of the shooting. Stein intentionally and unlawfully shot the judge. His actions were deliberate, and it was evidenced by multiple shots fired and the break-in shots being fired. Remember, he fired one volley of shots, turned and left, and then before he walked out the door, shot the judge 3 more times. And the fact that there was no immediate threat to the sheriff to justify this use of deadly physical force to someone who apparently was unarmed. Now, if I'm representing the sheriff, I'm saying that his actions were under extreme emotional disturbance caused by the reasonable belief that his family was in imminent danger. The discovery of his daughter's phone number on the judge's phone served as the triggering event. The sheriff's actions, while unlawful, weren't premeditated, but a result of a temporary loss of self-control, like finding your wife in bed with another man. Now, here is the part of the video where you become the jury. Do you believe the sheriff is likely guilty of first-degree murder? Would you give him manslaughter because he acted under the heat of passion? Or would you give the sheriff a walk, claiming he's not guilty because of the way the events went down? Let me know in the comments section, because this case is pretty complicated if you really think about it, because you have 2 people who are essentially friends, good friends, and a couple of minutes later, one is shooting his friend in his office on camera. So I don't think this sheriff is going to walk by any means. I think the sheriff is probably going to do jail time. It's really the difference between manslaughter and murder. But as always, tell me where I'm in the comment section. And if you are here at the end of this video listening to my voice now, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. And my name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.